to the Quit Getting Screwed podcast, where I talk to the Get Shit Done tribe about how to get shit done and run more effective and efficient businesses. And so I'm starting a series on litigation sucks, what that means, and how to avoid it. Now, it really comes down to, and I say litigation sucks as an attorney, right? And so it's not that so much that it sucks for me, but it's expensive and it takes a lot of time away from your business and other things and we'll get into the real cost of litigation here shortly. And there's plenty of times when litigation is necessary. We just want to be real open and honest about what it really looks like, what the cost of it is, what's going to be expected from you as the client, what's going to be expected of me as the attorney. So we really want to dive into what litigation would look like before we make the decision if we're going there or not. But anyways, the series is Litigation Sucks, and then how to avoid litigation, right? So this first episode will be how to avoid litigation as a residential contractor. And when I say residential contractor, I'm talking to the repair remodel contractors, the new build contractors that are working directly for homeowners, right? For homeowner clients on building things and repairing things. And I think this is probably the most preventable place to prevent litigation is this type of transaction between a consumer, a client, and a residential contractor. I think residential contractors can do a better job on things we're about to talk about, which would then reduce the likelihood that they would get sued, right? And I just think it comes from my experience. I've been in construction litigation for the last 20 years, and I've been both on the homeowner side and been both on the contractor side. And so having seen that, I can tell you things that you could do to limit the risk that you will end up being sued by a homeowner, right? So from my experience of representing both homeowners and contractors, here are some tips on how to prevent litigation in residential construction, right? The biggest place, first off, I think as contractors, you love what you do, you're good at what you do. I think you have to put an extra special pause on the fact that, generally speaking, you are working in your client's most sacred space, their home. It is very personal. It is probably the most personal thing besides their kids and their family that they want to protect. So, right. So you're coming into somebody's home and immediately that's their safe place. That's where they want to be. And I think sometimes we forget that, right? As we dive into fixing things and projects, that we forget that this is their most sacred space. Just as for you is yours most sacred space, right? Your home. This is where you come to. And I think that elevates the level of aggravation or miscommunication to a higher degree, right? And so I think we need to be sensitive of the issue of we're working someone's most sacred space. This is their home, and I want to respect it. I want to respect them, but just realize that it's got more emotion to it than somebody working on a commercial building. And emotion in the legal world is dangerous and expensive. So when you get into a homeowner that's dug in about how they've been wronged in their home, it can be very expensive, right? And sometimes it's not. And in that situation, it's for them, it's never a business decision, right? They're not making a decision based on like, oh, I spent this much and how much am I going to get back? And is it really worth it? No, it's more of to punish you, the contractor, right? So it's a prideful, I was wronged. I want to hurt you like you hurt me. And when you get in that situation, it's hard as an attorney on both sides to make people see, hey, this is not really how this works. I understand that you were hurt and I understand that's your most personal space, but that's not something you're going to get, homeowner, as in the world of what you can get in lawsuits. And so they're always overreaching and trying to be compensated for their emotional damages, which you can't get. So trying to explain to them that they can't get that. And, every homeowner client I've represented got a pretty good deal, and they were still upset and disappointed in the whole process because they don't feel that they were made whole. because of the personal invasion and the wrong that they felt that they were wronged, and you can't put a dollar amount on that. So I say that to just walking into this general space to keep that in mind, is that if this thing goes south, it's way more personal. It can be way more aggressive than somebody making a business decision, right? It's not that anymore for them. They're out for blood. They want to hurt you like they feel that they've been hurt. So I say that to tell you all the more reason of the things that we're going to talk about and how to prevent from getting there. Because once they get to the demand letters, the litigation, they're dug in and they're convinced that you deserve to be punished, and that's what they're trying to do. So first, understand that it's always very personal. Now, where things go wrong is that the homeowner, the client, has a vision in their mind of how this construction process is going to work, how long it's going to take, how smoothly it's going to go. And I don't think a lot of the times that it's based in reality, especially if the homeowner client has never been through a construction project before, right? Even the best laid construction project has minor issues that have to be addressed that you didn't see coming, right? And so what we have to do as builders, as clients, as to customers, is to really take some time after they decide we're going to hire. What is this process going to look like? How long is it realistically going to take? If there's issues, how are we going to handle them? Just being upfront about, hey, I'm an expert at what I do, but I'm going to try real hard to be things that are not issues. But with every construction project, there's always something, especially in the realm of if we're doing repair remodel work. If I'm digging into your wall, or if we're tearing something out and I find something I don't expect or I couldn't expect, we're going to have a talk about what that looks like, and is the price going to increase, and how we'll handle that, right? So being upfront about, the change order process, being upfront about the schedule, a realistic schedule. Always go long. Don't ever cut yourself short. Give yourself an extra 2 or 3 weeks at least. That way, if something happens along the line, you're covered. So, and just be honest about it. Be honest about the process, what it really looks like. So you're walking them through it, but really the best way to do it is to have a contract that's written in plain English that you can understand and your client can understand, and you can walk through it and kind of go through it together, so that you can explain, like, here's what this looks like, here's what this means. I need you to have the space cleared out 100% before we come in. Here's how our payment schedule is, right? Another thing that homeowners don't generally understand, especially if you're on a milestone payment, they're not 100% sure that you've reached that milestone. And although you're expecting a check, they're not clear that you've reached that milestone. So I always say, hey, when we get to this point, we're going to send you an invoice and you have 3 days to pay or 2 days to pay. And if you don't, then we're going to stop working, right? And so just being upfront about how the whole process works, right? Change orders. Another thing that I think is a huge issue that should be addressed on the very front end, especially for customers who are not familiar with the construction process, is the punch out process, right? Homeowners are watching you go through their house and do things. And it's not 100% done, but they just see the little issues you left behind as you move forward. And in their mind, unless you tell them differently, they think you're just going to leave it, right? So being upfront about, hey, we're going to go through this construction process, we're going to go through things, and there's going to be things that are dinged up or marked up that we're going to have to come back and fix, but we're going to take care of that in this process called punch out process. And let them know that, they can keep a list as they're going along, or if they want to tag it as they're going along, that will be addressed in the final punch out. But then again, going into what that process looks like, right? We're going to walk through the project one time. You're going to tell me all of the things that need to be corrected. We're going to write it up. You're going to sign off on it. This is all the things that need to be corrected. I'm going to go in and correct those things. And after I do that, I expect full payment. That's not to say that I can't handle other issues after that point, but that would be a warranty claim. And so in order for your warranty to be valid, I need to be paid in full after we do this punch out process. And then after that, I can still answer your calls, but it would just be a warranty claim. And I have to be paid in full before I can honor a warranty. So That also prevents the never-ending punch list, and you're not getting paid the last $2,000 or $3,000, right? So explain that punch-out process, explain the change order process, and the fact that if you don't catch something before it happens doesn't mean you're not an expert. It just means you couldn't see it coming, and so that when some issue does come, you look like the expert that you are. So being upfront about that, schedule, being upfront about the availability of materials, how long it might take to get something. Don't overpromise there. Being upfront about the cost of materials, right? And putting in your contract that, hey, if there's an increased price in the cost of materials from the time we sign the contract to the time we actually purchase the materials, you're going to be on the hook for that difference, right? Just being upfront as possible. The other thing I see where guys always get in trouble, and this is a huge one, right? You want to make your clients happy, so you start doing extra work for free, right? Well, she asked for this, and it wasn't that big, and I wanted to make her happy. And here's the one thing that I can tell you. Those are the guys that always end up in my office getting a demand letter that something went wrong with the free work, that they thought that it should have been better, right? So don't do things for free, right? You have a contract, you have a change order process. If there's something extra they'd like to add, absolutely. Here we go. Let's do change order for it. Here's how much it's going to cost. And most places you pay the change order up front before the work is done, and then I'll do the extra work. I know you guys are trying to make your client happy, but giving them free stuff is not the way to do it, right? Offer them, free pictures of the completed work that they can post on their social media, or something else that is not free work that should have been a change order, right? Because that just ends up every time in a bad situation. You're trying to make them happy. They're never happy. When you give them work for free, they don't put any value on it, so they don't think it's worth anything. So don't do that. Don't work for free. If a client's upset or has an issue, answer the phone call and address the issue. Another big thing that I see that people get into huge disputes over is when a client has a tough question or wants to know something, the contractor just doesn't answer the phone or doesn't follow up or doesn't answer their email, right? For just general business purposes and from the lawyer perspective, if you have a client that's in that situation that's somewhat unhappy and you go out and you meet with them and address them, follow up with an email. Hey, you had an issue with this. I came out and looked, and here's what we're going to do to correct it, right? Always follow it up with an email so we have something in writing, because verbal, it can be he said, she said, and plus anything verbal is not going to amend the terms of your contract. So make sure it's in writing. Especially when we get to the place of people are always kind of acting funny, that there's tense situations. You go out there and you try to make them happy and you agree to do something, make sure you follow up an email. The other thing too is if it gets to the point where they kick you off the job, they don't want you out there anymore, and you're trying to finish or you're trying to come fix things, make sure you put that either in a text or an email that, hey, I understand that you're unhappy about this and I'm trying to correct it, but you denied me access. I'm here and I'm willing and able to perform, right? So that's showing we have written proof that you offered to do that, right? So it happens that, customers get upset. The main thing is to come in, address it, take responsibility if it's your fault, and here's how we're going to fix it. If it's not your fault, then document that too. Hey, you asked me about this particular issue. I came out and investigated, and it clearly is work that was existing, and it wasn't my work, and here's why. And I'm going to follow it up with an email so that anything does happen, I have my side of the story in writing, right? Another thing is always trust your gut, right? Think of, when you first meet with a client, like a first date, it's never going to get any better than that. Like if you're already getting red flags, if they want to change your process, if they want to do something that you're not comfortable with, you don't have to take them as clients, right? You don't have to take every job, especially if they want to cut your price down, or if you're already getting that vibe that you're not going to work well together. Trust your gut. Most of the guys that always come into my office that have been sued or are in the process of a lawsuit, could tell you at the very beginning, that I knew I shouldn't have taken this project. There were red flags. There was something that I knew I shouldn't have taken this project. So trust your gut. It's the biggest thing I can tell you. Because the real cost of litigation, yes, you have to pay me, you have to pay a lawyer, and it's super expensive, but the stress that it puts on your life, you get into this situation that you have no control over, right? You can have the best evidence ever. I can't guarantee you what the outcome is going to look like. The stress of the unknown, if you go in front of a judge or a jury, you're the decision of this case and all this money you have riding on this decision is in somebody's hand that probably doesn't know anything about construction, right? And so you have a better chance with taking your money to Vegas than you do with litigating something all the way to trial, right? I'm not saying that there's not situations that litigation isn't called for and we can be effective. But let's have the conversation of what it really looks like, because it's not just the money you pay me. It's, the discovery, you got to turn over all these documents. It's the fact that they could take your deposition. It's the fact that you'll have to sit at trial for a week or two and explain yourself to 12 people you have that you don't know, right? And their decision you have absolutely no control over, and neither do I. I can tell you what I've done in the past. I can tell you what I think will happen, but it's no guarantee. I don't know, right? So I want you to be very thoughtful about litigation, right? Like I said, sometimes you can't be helped, and that's the way you have to go. But let's have the conversation of, okay, and let's position ourselves so if we go that way, we're in the best position possible, right? We have all of our paperwork lined up. We have all of the places where we tried to correct it, where we tried to make these people happy. And they were those homeowners that no matter what I did, I couldn't make them happy. And I hear that all day long from contractors. It's like, man, I really tried. And then I try to throw in free stuff to make them happy, and it just makes it worse, right? So protect yourself. Main thing, have a well-written contract that is very clear about what's expected from them, what's expected from you, how the process is going to go, how we're going to handle unknown situations when they arise, because they will. And how that you're a team and you really want to give them what they're looking for, what they want, what they hired you for. But we got to work together. I can't be, and you can even put in there, you can't, we have a meeting once a week where we go, or twice a week where we go over all your questions. Besides that, you can't sit here and micromanage me. We've done that before. We put into contracts that, there's a penalty for homeowners that don't make timely selections of things. Whatever you've had experience in the past that was painful, that we don't want to do it again, make sure we'll put that in the contract. So it's very clear that this is what is important to you, and this is how this job is going to run. If you do that and you're up front, you're a lot less likely to be sued and a lot less likely to end up in litigation, which is time consuming, expensive, and stressful. If you have any specific questions about a situation or ideas and thoughts on how to handle it, reach out, give me an email, tag me on social media. I'm always here, willing to answer questions and try to give some practical advice of how to resolve situations without litigation. Gotcha. All right, guys, take care. My Get Shit Done crew, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.